Another angry white kid, just about cut away. Greta's going to be pissed.
All right, we are live, 7/14/2024. This is One-Eye Jack and the Shells, just a bowl cut away, crisis actor for hire, a song about squibs. Now, I don't know any MAGAs. If you know any MAGAs, ask them if you can hold their MAGA hat for a moment, and I want you to squeeze between the 45 and the 47 on the right side of the hat, and see if it splooges out ketchup or fake blood, some kind of squibby device. See if it squibs. Are these hats squibs? Someone let me know. Lots to go over here. Trump assassination, WWE style PR stunt, Psyop, and this is your Autohoaxology Metascript breakdown. Free of charge, but you can join and support for less than $5 a month, and you get live stream notifications plus archives sent to your inbox. And today phones are open. I want to get more information from other people who may have something. A lot of interesting comments. Let's just go with the comments that are here so I don't miss anything. Frank Murr, J Diggs, let's go. This is where it's at. P Trippa says I'm here for the info breakdown. Oh, we are a fake news wood chipper. So if you're here for a breakdown, you're in the right place. This is where it's at says Thomas Matthew Crooks. And Messianic Charlatan pointed out that the Matthew has the double T code, which is huge in all these 9/11 events. 9/11 events being triggering events, dominoes. Like, it might be spectacular in and of itself, but it's just the beginning. But he said he looks like the militia guy from Civil War. And if you remember, back in April, we were talking about the movie Civil War, where they literally kill Trump. And we have the movie A Man in Full, the series on Netflix, where they have Trump die. I mean, this is a theme that we've been examining in detail. In fact, if you look at the screen, this is from The Atlantic. This is the article where it talks about Trump getting his get-out-of-jail-free card thanks to the Supreme Court, and it has the blood dripping motif here over his head. But specifically, because we already commented on his head wound, but look, they clipped his ear in the exact place where he was, quote, shot. And a couple of notes on this. It doesn't look fake. You know, people automatically say, oh, it's fake. Well, you can do that, but that's a auto disbelief. To be an auto hoaxer is to suspend judgment and get all the facts and be an informed non-believer. Or, if it's true, you'll know, and you'll know why. So we're not just saying it looks fake. We have to look for what we would consider to be hallmarks of a hoax, but as a general rule, yeah, it's fake until proven real, because the media is, when it comes to these big psyops, they're telling stories, they're producing. They're not informing you about the world. The screen is not a window that tells you what's going on over here. They're conforming you to a worldview through their filter. And by examining their filter as such, we've picked up on dozens, if not hundreds of clues, pointing out with specificity, a head wound publicly on the right side of Trump's head, which would be a 9/11 event and a catalyst. And all of the various nuances here are apparent in this event, as we will go through. In fact, it's more than I would have imagined. I mean, we had the Robert De Niro connections we already made, and we pointed out that the 2010 movie Machete has a xenophobic senator who's basically Trump, talking smack on Obama. That's what it represents in the movie, who gets shot while he's at his podium. And this speech he's giving is about illegal immigrants in a very derogatory way. Well, Trump was saying something about 20 million plus illegal immigrants when he got shot. So it was verbatim, practically. And my point being here, we're accurate in what we're doing because we know what we're looking at. We know what media is and what it is not. We're not operating under the false assumption that, oh, the next event might be real. And I have people asking questions and I'm answering them on Twitter. And so we'll go through many of these. Like, for example, maybe it's real this time. No. Same production company, same directors, same agencies and actors, and everyone is signing non-disclosure agreements. If somebody really dies, that's a criminal act. It's an illegal act. It invalidates non-disclosure agreements. They're not killing anybody. Nor are they going to start. Just like they're not going to suddenly start really sending people to the moon. Once fake, always fake. It's the fake world order. All right, we are joined here by Linda Curtis. Jay Diggs says, what should we talk about today? Anything happened lately? Interesting times, as always. Armin Ree, Kevin Mooring, Austin108 says, I'm still not a mod. And by the way, there's a new Civil War movie. No, Captain America. Harrison Ford as president. Attempted assassination. Trailer just came out. I mean, this is concurrent programming. It's not even months in the past. And then you have that season 4, episode 8 of The Boys, where the character who represents Trump is smiling with blood on his face. Just like he did his Braveheart pose with his bloody face. If you comment, I'll get you mod status. It takes me a minute sometimes to get into the YouTube channel. Mango Penguins, P-Tripper says, on the shooter, does he look familiar? I know actors are reused, but normally I have no clue. Actually, yeah, he has been discovered by, I believe, Laura Loomer. He was part of a commercial or a video for BlackRock, which has opened up a whole can of conspiracy worms. And the second shooter theory, already there. Third shooters, this is basically going to be the JFK for the next 50 years for people to talk about. Nicotrauma says, all hail the great Garrow. He sat in his studio apartment for the last few years breaking down the event. Oh, Nicotrauma broke it down in advance. I'm sorry, Garrow broke it down in advance, as Nicotrauma said. And many of the nuances are here. Getting shot at 611, the number codes are very consistent. Till says auto-hoax or GTFO. Yeah, if you're not auto-hoaxing, you're going to be asked to politely GTFO the raft at some point, or you'll be dragged back by your own addiction to hopium back to Trutherville. There's going to be a great separation and a schism here between the auto-believers and the auto-hoaxers, the skeptics and those who are still faithful adherents of the church of mainstream media. And in that group, I include conspiracy theorists. One of their biggest ruses, it's wolf in sheep's clothing. Oh, we're not mainstream media. We're alternative. Right. No, you're the heel. You're the opposite side of the controlled dialectic. It's pretty obvious now. Anybody who doesn't see that isn't paying attention. Or they have the screen pressed up against their nose. Or their head has gone through the screen. If you looked at today's graphic, by the way, I put this up a little earlier. It's a juggernaut of a penguin robot deconstructing a TV, and you see little people are running free, escaping from the box. Just kind of gives you an idea of what I mean when I say deprogramming, because you're all programmed by default. Deprogramming is an act of individual volition, and there are three groups of people in the world: the programmed, the programmers, who are at various levels of ignorance about the big plan, and then the deprogrammed, which is a very recent addition to the human population. We're not supposed to exist. Elephant Tusk says, did you get a chance to see the signal coding behind Trump? Yeah, it was like fired, fired, fired. Then he's like fight, fight, fight. Oh, she gives an O shape right before it happens. There's a few more angles that are showing up. Some people say, why do we only have one angle? It's staged. You have to suspend judgment and not assume that what they've shown you is all that there is to judge off of. For example, we had a couple of falsely identified shooters. I was talking about one of them yesterday, the Italian guy. Yeah, he wasn't the shooter. You could tell because he was much thinner on the roof. And then you had someone who looked like the shooter, pretending to be the shooter for lulz, for internet laughs, for kicks. Kevin Mooring says the shoes from the Nashville was a thing, and now another event where Trump yelling, "Get my shoes." Yeah, that was interesting. Shoes are always an event, a prop in these events. Crisis actors lose their shoes before they get off the stage. It's really strange. And we've noticed this for some time. And they're always sneakers with shoelaces. Like, I run, my shoes never fall off. It's cartoonish. Like when your shoes fall off, is there a cloud of smoke beneath you and your feet are just running in place for a moment? Like, this isn't Looney Tunes, this is reality. But most people have it confused. NASA operates within a Looney Tunes universe, if you ask me. Joined by Pingu33 FMGR, Synchromorpheus says Trump also constantly referred to crooked Joe Biden, who some blame for the shooting, saying it's time to put Trump in the bullseye 5 days earlier. And then the shooter's name, wasn't it? Is it Crooks? And Thomas is a name we often talk about. Crooks is also the last name of Tupac, whose real name is Lasan Crooks, even though that's not his mother's name. It's one of these designated names, probably referencing something. Zinvalis, this is where it's at, says, yeah, that's it. Tupac's last name is Crooks. Rocco Calzone says, does it seem like there's a quickening? No, not to me anyway. I've been hearing this since 2012. It's like, how's 2012 happening? And then 2013, Nibiru. And then 2020 happened. It's a quickening. Everybody's waking up. No, they're putting on face diapers and watching CNN. I don't think there's a quickening. Well, there's a quickening among us, but that's different. It's not even a quickening so much as a gathering of people who have already stepped outside of their box. And when I say stepped outside of their box, I mean we are just treating it monolithically. We're rejecting all of it at face value. No trust, no benefit of no doubt. It's a pathological liar. And like, maybe I can trust it this time. Maybe we can trust it when there's a body count. No, that's how manipulators get you. They cry. They shed, it's like body fluids are convincing. Oh, she's crying, she's telling the truth. Oh, they're bleeding, it's true. No, that's not how it works. And ironically, after these fake shootings with fake blood and fake tears, if you have any tears at all, they have these vigils where the public gathers, and they cry for real. And they donate blood. So they do get blood and tears out of these media simulated sacrifices. Do you think says a quickening seems to be happening to me? I don't know. We live in a different world. I mean, there's the mainstream world stage where most people exist. The wokesters and the truthers exist in a nightmarish parody of the mainstream dream. And we're kind of outside of it. And so on the inside, they may speed up the swirling within the world stage, the left, right, the constant motion, the world stage. It's like a whirlpool. It's manufactured chaos. And they speed it up once in a while to synchronize everybody. But things aren't really speeding up. So this is what's that expression that they say sometimes, I think it's some years, decades happen. It was by Lenin, Vladimir Lenin. There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. And so we may be going through one of these weeks where they're going to put a decade's worth of psyops into the mix. And that's what I'm expecting. This was merely a domino. Ola Goering says, does Crooks equal Saturn? Good observation. James Osman says, amazing to watch the movie knowing the scripts in advance. Do you remember we were talking about Fallout? And I had pointed out how in the scene where the Kamala Harris character, Betty Pearson, BP, just like Butler, Pennsylvania, 216, a lot of significance in that number and code, but this character steals an election, basically, Vault 33. And after they clean up a massacre, there's one drop of blood left in the room. It's on the foosball table on the right side of the head of a foosball character that looks exactly like Donald Trump. And I was like, wow, you got the BP, got the staged, or rather the stolen election theme, obligatory 33s, but then the blood spot, the one drop of blood on the side of his head. So yes, we have spoiler alerts here for the world stage. If you want to know what's going to happen on the news tomorrow, I mean, in reality tomorrow, according to the news, watch the programming today or look further back. Okay, continuing. Where's this pic of Trump from, Tim? Says Isaac Clark. The one that I was referencing is from the Atlantic, and as you'll see, there's two images from the Atlantic. Let me show you the other one. And the other one was commented on by Laura Loomer, and I pointed this out then. I said, don't trust Laura Loomer, because what she's going to do is she's going to run with these themes and bury it in mainstream manure. So this had already been pointed out months ago. Alex Soros tweets out bullet hole and 47, a direct threat to Trump. So this had already been taken apart. Alex Soros brings in George Soros. Alex Soros married to Uma Abedin. So there's intrigue here. And I'd said then, when they do this, they're going to say Soros sponsored the shooting. But more recently, The Atlantic put out this article having to do with the Supreme Court giving Trump a free pass. This is from The Atlantic, and as you can see, it literally has his ear clipped exactly where he was shot. It's got the blood dripping down, a blood drop over his head. The blood being the negative spaces between the justices. So there's a lot here. And didn't the shooter say something about justice is coming? There's something here. But anyway, there's quite a lot to unpack. A lot of people are noticing the weird Vincent Fuchsia JFK Jr. in an aged John Denver costume character in the background. That guy's sus. Mango says the shots were so fast. It's possible some of the shots were from the SS back at the shooter. This is where it's at. It says, I wish we could monetize our knowledge of the Metascript. Well, here's something that will happen. Although it's not our agenda, but it is a tool, and it's what gives us leverage. And if you don't know what this is, look up parallelmedia.org. The parallel media concept is simply, we recognize that mainstream thought is contained in a box. Alternative thought on the left and right are in subsets of the big box. I call this Woketown, Trutherville, and Normieland. And that box is a closed system of ideas when it comes to media analysis and worldview. Our outside perspective is beyond the acceptable parameters of discourse established by alternative and conspiracy media. This is beyond David Icke and beyond Alex Jones. But it's not paranoid, it's not about reptilians, it's actually skepticism, but treating media as a monolithic whole, not as a bunch of competing voices trying to get your attention, but it tells a singular message. And I use the term world stage to describe the model. When we think about what the world is, we're not really thinking about shape. Oh, well, I'm on a ball in space. That defines my existence. We never see that. Your worldview is your perspective enhanced by your experience, knowledge, and whatever they have augmented via belief systems into your concept of the world. And what we realize is they've taken a great deal of creative license. They have introduced God constructs, neo-eschatologies, and superstitions. Here we term them hyperstitions because they're reinforced as real by this echo chamber. So stepping outside of it, we're no longer alternative media. We're certainly not mainstream. What do you call it? I say parallel because we're not part of the pro versus anti-control dialectic. We're not anti. Oh, I'm anti-media. That just means anti-mainstream. But I'm also anti-alternative media. I'm always having to take the stance of anti-anti because they're on the main team and they don't know it. So we have to have this separate group. And this separate group, this parallel media, will metastasize around this core, around our methodology. Not just this channel. Other people of similar views will aggregate outside of their box, recognizing that it's a wasteland. Mentanol addicts, hopium fiends, pissed on QAnon breadcrumbs, QAnon Kool-Aid, making everybody sick. We're like quarantining from that sickness and all their mind viruses. Because the world stage is typified by what I would term mind aids, basically no mental immune system when it comes to beliefs that are propagated 24/7. So what we do here is we inoculate ourselves against automatic belief. And that pause of, I don't believe it till I see evidence, allows us to step outside of their bubbles and take time to determine if these things are real or not. Simple. But to get to what This Is Where It's At was saying, he's like, I wish we could monetize our knowledge of the script. Well, they have always demonetized what we do here. This channel has recently been monetized, but we've been canceled. We've had YouTube channels pulled more than 100 times. So they make it very difficult. And what I'm suggesting here is that there are enough people in the know, on the same page more or less, that it will become its own separate ecosystem and economy outside of the mainstream. We won't need their air, and it'll be self-supporting. We've demonstrated this many times. We've financed events, billboards, World's Greatest Daredevil, Mad Mike's Rocket, and this is all done through crowdfunding because we're a lot of people interested, and we weren't looking for big donors. As always, let's try to get small donations from lots of people to advance various projects. And in this case, we're not regurgitating mainstream media. We're deconstructing their lies and examining and trying to understand the architecture of this monolithic apparatus. And that's why none of us here were surprised when yesterday happened. In fact, the day before, JL had called in, and we were talking about the same scenario because we've been saturated with it. I've been saying the collective psyche has been so saturated with Trump and a head wound on the right side of his head that nobody is going to think it's out of the blue. It's expected. And that's the purpose of conditioning you with predictive programming. They're pre-selling you on the events. Boring neuro pathways. Linda Curtis says JFK was nominated for president on July 13th. Trump takes his shoes off during his speeches. They do call him a heel. That's from This Is Where It's At. Hero Paranormal says the deprogrammed live in a peaceful environment. Yeah, I'm not getting involved in their political warfare. Ollie Goering says, I like Symbia's new song, Autohoaxology by Symbia. I'll post a link below. Metascripting is gatekept. Yeah, see, here's the thing. It will always be gatekept. Auto-hoaxers, true skeptics, were always shunned. I was personally banned by Paul Joseph Watson when I was examining the Nice truck attacks. I was saying, these are rubber dolls. Someone in the comments was like, that's my girlfriend. I'm like, well, why aren't you in the hospital next to your rubber doll girlfriend? You shouldn't be here on the internet on some marginal channel with 30 people. But they said, stop calling it a hoax. Think about the families. Think about the families. So they would guilt trip people into not being skeptical. Oh, I saw some blood, so I have to believe. Now, we realized that we were right about this. But now we've gone further than just noticing certain things are fake. We've gone not a separate direction, but we've gone deeper. So beyond looking at, okay, they staged these events for political purposes. They stage this for the general worldview of humanity, referencing NASAtology and the space program. But I'm like, no, they actually write our history in advance. It's called news bending. They've given it away in that play, The Newsbenders. And the way they implement this is through psychological operations, which are PR stunts. This is part of crowd management. It's how the few control the billions. And the way they do it is, the regular run-of-the-mill news every day, most of it's matching reality. Most of it appears to be a window, like I said, but good liars don't lie with every breath. Bad liars do. Good liars lie strategically to people who trust them. So the public trusts media. Whether they don't trust one side or the other is immaterial. They accept the general picture. And then they insert fake events, and everything bounces off of it. And if you find it hard to believe that they can script things in advance, well, what'd you call Apollo 11? You think they just, what is it, freestyle? Freestyle crisis acting? Yeah, just go out there, say what's on your heart. Just method act for us. No, these things are down to a nuance planned. People are saying, well, what about Trump's ear? Did he use that wrestling trick where he cut himself with a razor? Possibly. But whatever he did, it was planned. None of this stuff is unscripted. When it comes to these big events, and everything else that's not scripted is within the safe boundaries, and it's bouncing off everything with the assumption it happened. Greetings from France, says They Lie We See. While everybody was glued to the screen, do the Trump thing, I went for a hike. I tune in deeper, And here's why. I want to keep a pulse on where everything is. I want to know what the masses are programmed to think. We know what they think because we know the programming. We have to be informed, whereas the masses are misinformed. If you unplug, you become uninformed, which is disadvantageous because then you have to catch up. We don't have to catch up. Like, we already knew this was going to happen, which is why none of us here had our pulses spike at all when it happened. Ted Stryker says, been listening to IPS since 9 a.m. I uploaded archives last night, or this morning. Hero says, the shoes falling off are a wink and a nod to those in the know. I tend to think so. Mango says, good show yesterday, nice to be reporting live. Yeah, where's Isabel Ann? We had an astrologer report live. We had an astrologer comment on some alignments regarding Trump and said, this would be a propitious time for a headshot, citing her sources, mentioning the names of the stars, and then the very next comment, oh, Trump just got it. 6/11. And then people are pointing out, okay, Steve Bannon's in jail broadcasting, if you believe he's in jail. And he's like, he's talking about Trump was protected by the armor of God. Armor of God is Ephesians 6:11. And we were talking endlessly about 6/11 as it pertains to the far right and Waco, Timothy McVeigh's death date, the inverted 9/11 thing. And Trump was shot at 6/11. So Armor of God, 6/11, Sound of Freedom, the Tim Ballard movie. If you remember, Tim Ballard, I guess he's excommunicated as a Mormon. He's a Catholic now. And he's also a human trafficker and a sex assaulter. But Tim Ballard's movie was all about Tim 6/11. I was like, that's interesting. It's some Bible verse, but the number is consistent. Tim McVeigh, 6/11, Waco. All these are encoded into this event. Remember, Trump kicked off his campaign in Waco. 6/11 is code for the, this is based on my analysis, 6/11 is code for the domestic violent extremist 9/11 attack. It's the inversion of the 9/11. Batman, Gotham gets underwater, it gets flooded because of the right-wing Riddler/Q army online who get activated, and they flood the polls, which was the GOP midterm slogan, flood the polls. But Gotham's underwater on 11/6. So this 6/11 thing is very consistent as well. Okay, let's continue. They Lie We See says false flag is a misnomer. Yeah, if somebody says false flag, it means they're like truther, kindergarten truthers. They don't know. That's a term that has been fed to alt media by people like Alex Jones. So they have this operating premise that the news is either real or real, but somebody else did it. It rules out fake. So it's not really false flag or real, it's fake or real. False flags never happen. These events where they simulate something don't involve real deaths. Okay, moving on here. Ollie Goering says Kevin Mooring indicated that Thomas Crooks is too young to vote in the 2022 primaries. Oh, interesting. That's right. He would have been. He had to make his voice heard in a different way. One-Eyed Jack says, I'm so glad this is playing out. It was getting boring. Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but like 3 days ago, I was like, I hope we get a really good Psyop. You know, because the summer is kind of slow. It's just trudging along. So I was hoping for, I'm not really sure. I was like, a nuke would be too much to ask for right now. Mass shootings are easy to debunk. I was like, let's get some kind of a plot twist. Something out of the blue. And then, to counter the boredom, I planned this international big viewing of the space station in order to debunk it or validate it. And as soon as I planned it, this happened. And so some have suspected here that it's possible that the Trump shooting was likely scheduled for August 4th, but they had to bump it forward to interrupt us. I can't vouch for that. Elephant Tusk says, investigate Adbusters. This is a source for predictive programming. I'll take a look. I've seen some of their magazines. Joined by X322 and Garrett Summers. Garrett says that's hats. All the people wear in the background. The hats and the attire to look a certain way and the placement where they are on camera is part of a production and pre-production. Yeah, easy. Like the guy with the Keep America Great attempted to resuscitate the guy who was shot with the initials CC. we're looking at some interesting initials here, by the way. The other person that was shot had DD. Then we had Shelley Duvall, Shannon Doherty, both die, SDs. Not sure what this means, but we're just looking at related terms of the timing, celebrity deaths. Some people are saying, and I don't know, that Richard Simmons, dead at 76, is likely to indicate that Joe Biden won't be seen anymore in public because Richard Simmons played Joe Biden. I don't know. I have to look closer. I'm so tired of this Scooby-Doo game with Joe Biden. Like, who's playing Joe Biden? Is it James Woods? Is it Eminem? Is it Jim Carrey? It's like this list of people. Check Gilded Tim. Okay. Do You Think says, I told my mother this was going to happen a month ago and not to believe it. See, that's what I call mind war inoculation. You let them know, hey, this is the trend. This is what's happening. Don't react like a decapitated chicken and run for a voting booth, but really think about the deeper implications of global mass media manipulation. That's really what, to me, this is the wake-up call. It's like, well, if you can't see through this, if you don't know that we live in a world wrestling entertainment universe, if your worldview is filtered through that screen, you are technically in a cult, and it is a doomsday cult. If you don't think so, you don't believe the science. If you believe the science, you would be agoraphobic. You'd be wearing a helmet for space junk. You'd be sleeping under your bed. Hero Paranormal says, so glad I found this channel because when it's so wild, nothing else you hear is true. Yeah, you're just going to hear lie regurgitation, reality being put through a wood chipper, other people sorting through the chips. All right, moving on. What did Isabel Ann say moments before? We'll get her back on. In fact, we may get a call. Mars conjunct with Uranus over a fixed star Algol. And Cubstar pointed out that the same alignment was apparent during the Will Smith slap of Chris Rock. So we're looking at the world stage, but we also have to look at the celestial counterpart. This whole idea of as above, so below. The concept is the general story in broad brushes is based on the personification of the so-called stars, the sun, the moon, the celestial objects. Like the idea of Christ as a personification of the sun is not hard to grasp, but the astrological stories being told through mainstream media drama. That's what we're looking at here, which is very consistent. If, as I propose, mainstream media is the de facto world state church, then like the state church, like the religions, it's going to have an exoteric and an esoteric, and it's going to have the same astrotheological basis for its main tales. That's why you have all the Christ typology put over Trump. Look how much they've Christified Trump. Connected him to this again and again, and even he has contributed to this endlessly. Putting his, you remember he opened his shirt last week where he's like, he said, if I opened my shirt, you would see wounds. There's so much to go over here. He just started wearing a bulletproof vest. Any symbolism for the right ear? Good question. The Secret Service did guard the MAGA hat with their lives. They had to hide the squib. Okay, moving on. I'm going through your comments. There's so many great comments here, but I want to go through the notes. Kevin says Trump came off a plane, didn't notice a bandage. Anarchy Television says it's time for everyone to awaken from the slumber in the matrix and embrace the true freedom of true anarchy. All right, well, let's go ahead and go through some of the notes I put down. Trump rally shooter identified as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks. So there's obviously going to be some code here. We'll dig into it. Who does he look like to any of you? Okay, now we have this Braveheart thing is really stand out to me. When we look at all the different clues they put out there, and we've been talking about Trump's avatar for some time, how he has the 9/11 encoded onto his face, and the next 9/11 would involve the right side of his head, where the blue is. Forms a 9/11, there's a 9 in the stars, And this foreshadowed his Braveheart pose, where he, as we saw yesterday, raised his fist, and there's actually a flagstaff behind him that's in the same position where Mel Gibson's sword is. And that's the same makeup pattern as his avatar. And there's a few reasons why this is interesting. And you see how the flag, see the blue on the top left corner, matches his avatar. And so it's perfectly aligned. His avatar associating him with Braveheart, the raised fist. And then when you get into Mel Gibson and his role in the Q community, it all ties in even deeper. But I'm just pointing out here, this is consistent symbolism suggesting that no, we're not looking at a random event. Here's the Trump 45 shot glass. Strange choice for a teetotaler. It's like, I don't drink, don't smoke, but I'm going to get my signature shot glass, and even though I'm a president, I'm going to have a bullet. I mean, this is just bad taste. A bullet pointed right into it. And that's a real bullet. So we talked about this yesterday, the foreshadowing of the Trump mug shot. His mug got shot. The shot glass. How this is all conspicuous. Foreshadowing for what we just experienced. And this is just a tip of the iceberg. We had talked about the various movies, recent movies, like The Boys, where the character who represents Donald Trump is actually there posing for the cameras with blood on his face. That is a perfect parallel. Posing for the cameras with blood on his face. And that's the character they call the Homelander, who is supposed to be Trump, and you find them often compared. Again, I'm just rehashing on some of the instances of predictive programming, things that we have been talking about in recent weeks as we have prepared for the eventuality. Some said, I don't think it's going to happen, and I said, everything that they predict happens. And it's not going to be done very much different from what we've been expecting it to be. 9/11 predictive programming told you what was going to happen, so there's no reason to think, oh, he's just going to lose his mind, or he's just going to have his ego bruised. No, this is going to involve bullets. This is going to involve a JFK-ification event, a hero-making event. This is going to involve a sniper, as we've talked about since July 4th, when you had the July 4th sniper with the 47 on his head. On the side of his head, where Trump later put the 47 on his hat. You know, the hats where you squeeze it and it squirts out blood? Theatrical blood. So there we go. Fulfillment of prophecy? No. No, it's a movie. Okay, moving on. Ella Goering says, Q people I know a few weeks ago said a Trump clone was the one to be fake shot. Yeah, many people thought he was going to be killed for real. And then they're going to bring out a twin. And it's going to be more miraculous. But we might be asking a little much of the world stage, the theatrical crew. But I'm not for sure, but I kind of think this is the head wound we've been waiting for. I mean, some might think this is a precursor, but I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? Let me answer your phone calls, actually. If you want to call in, number is on the screen. Hopefully you don't have any gremlins chewing on the wires again. Okay, here we go. Infinite Plane Radio.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Okay, what's your take? I'm glad you're calling. What is Garrow's take on what transpired yesterday?
Yeah, for everyone, this is Jurassic Liars channel. Listen, this exactly, you said it, you know I was going to say it. This is a precursor for what is coming. The August 4th Trump head wound is still coming. This was not the big one. They just wanted to make sure that the whole world knows that he's a target and that it is a definite possibility that he can get a head wound, and it could happen at any time, at any place. Okay, so what would be another reason why they would do it? Let me say that after you say what you got to say right now.
Well, I would say this. We have been looking at how this has been an idea saturating the media for a long time to get people to expect it. But the only people paying attention are truthers and QAnons and people on the fringe who are awake, but it hadn't reached and percolated Normieville. And so now everybody's talking about, literally everybody that I know who are not watching the news at any time have all picked up the story that Trump got shot at. So they mainstreamed it. So you might be right. It could be a setup. It's plausible.
Yeah, and see now, because see, you know how you saw the JFK, how it looked when his head got, you know, exploded.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So in order for them to do that with number 45 over here, in order for them to do that with him, they would have to. They I don't think they can do that in front of all the normie. I mean the real people at like a rally. Okay, and I'm not talking about the people in the back, because everybody in the back of Trump and to the sides in the stands are special ops. If you know what I mean, they're family members of firemen, policemen, and government. You understand?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the name of the guy who was shot,
Yeah.
initial CC, you had the QAnon JFK Jr. guy in the costume of the hobo. Vincent Fuchsia was there. I mean, yeah, they're all ops. You're right about that.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, it was all coded, even the names of the people, like you said. The DD was the other guy who was supposedly shot. And anyway, so if they were to do that in front of real people, it would be hard to do the head explosion connection like they did with JFK. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that now, when it really does happen and they just have a video of it, it's going to be enough for them to believe it. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
It does. It does. Yeah, a closed movie set, far greater, spectacular thing with no real eyewitnesses. Yeah, that would make a lot more sense. And if this is the
Well,
psyop of a century, I would expect something that big.
yeah, and even if they do have witnesses, it's going to be their witnesses. You know what I mean? So it's same thing. It could be in a closed environment, not like a rally. You get what I'm saying? Like donors and all that other nonsense. But that's what they're doing here. So when they show it on August 4th, when they tell the world Trump is pronounced dead on August 4th, then they can unpronounce him dead and say, oh, miraculously they found a heartbeat, or he came out of his brain dead coma thing, or whatever the hell is going to happen. I don't know how but their first thing is going to be like, President Donald Trump is dead, breaking news, and then they're going to show it and all that, and then later they're going to say, actually he's alive, and he's in ICU, the 33 ICU is 33, it equals. Anyway,
A couple other points
hold on
here.
one second.
Okay, you'd often mentioned 216.
Go ahead.
The 216 code relates to August 4th. Well, there's a show called The Boys, season 4, episode 8, is your 4-8, and that's the one where the character who represents Trump failed assassination attempt. Similar thing. And I'm just pointing these out. These are like recurring themes. But anyway, this takes place in Butler, Pennsylvania. So BP 216, like Brock Purdy, who looks like Lee Harvey Oswald, as you pointed out, the Brock Purdy 216. So this takes place in Butler, Pennsylvania, and then the shooting happens at 6:11. So that's another number that it's in your username. 6:11 is the timing of it, which we were just discussing the significance there. And then here, if you look at the Atlantic, this shows you that this part of it was planned this way. It shows his ear clipped in this kind of foreboding, bloody-like image of him with his head wound.
Oh, that's a good catch. Yeah. And the time of the event was 6:11. I mean, how ridiculous is that?
Yeah, well, I'm inclined to be open to the possibility that this is a setup, and perhaps not the major domino that I was expecting it to be. We'll know in the coming days, but certainly, though, it was expected to go down as it went down, in my opinion. I don't think any of this stuff is accidental. They're making a big point to say, The Secret Service were all short females, DEI hires. They were incompetent with their weapons. Well, yeah, that was because their actors playing a role that way to make it look like it was a setup. So this is a layered story we're witnessing. I don't think any of this is accidental. I don't think they try to hit his head. I think that whatever happened was meant to happen this way. So does it mean there's going to be a follow-up, as you're suggesting? I'm highly open to it. And you said anytime, anywhere?
Yeah, that's well. Have you seen the? Because I'm not into that all that Illuminati crap, but uh, the Illuminati cards that came out in 1995. Have you seen the cards? I just did a video explaining that that one of the cards looks like the shooter. Did you see the? Look at my
Oh, yes. I know which one.
thumbnail
I
in the
have it
last
here.
video.
Yeah, I have it here. 1 second. We have a. There we go. Sorry, I had some music turn on. Enough is enough, it's called. And it says, anytime, any place, our snipers can drop you. Have a nice day.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the other card that I have on there. It's the second bullet.
Oh, I
Type
see.
that in.
Okay,
The
okay,
second bullet.
okay. The second bullet. I have seen that one. Someone posted it in my server this morning. It's an
Look,
Illuminati playing card, and the back of each bullet has an all-seeing eye, and the second bullet card could be in play. Okay, interesting. I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, there is a second card. I'll pull it up here shortly.
look at what he looks like. It kind of looks like the shooter, and of course, it kind of represents Trump. And it's got a target right on its head. And read what it says in the thing, right under the card.
Yeah, it says, play this card immediately after you fail to roll to destroy. If any of your group still have action tokens that are eligible to participate in the attack, they can spend their actions and add enough power to make the attack succeed. And it looks like Trump. It's got the bricks behind him, and he had the brick guy that he was hugging, the guy in the suit covered in bricks. So this is suggesting that the deep state may have some action tokens, and that there's going to be a second attack, a second bullet.
Yeah, but it looks like the kid who actually did the shooting. That's what I'm saying. So if it failed, they said use this card, and then you use the action to make it work. So they're saying this one failed.
Okay,
Use
okay.
this action to make the second one happen. Do you get it?
Okay, now that's intriguing, because there's this theory that this was going to be allowed to happen, and then they were going to shoot him afterward to cover it up. So it's an inside job. The shooter's a patsy, and so the patsy here is getting killed. And that kind of storyline is that something that I'm hearing promulgated by a lot of people. And then I looked at Machete, the movie Machete, and that's what happens to him as well. It's a setup where he's not meant to survive after shooting the senator who represents Trump. And I don't know if you caught this, but in Machete, Robert De Niro, in a Trump-like character running for senator, at a podium gets shot while he's talking about illegal immigration. Trump had just mentioned 20 million illegal immigrants when he got shot. So that was almost verbatim, right out of Machete.
Oh, you're all over that, because I don't know nothing about that stuff, the Machete stuff. You with that Robert De Niro, you're all over that thing. But just real quick, let me just tell you this: that he was only on stage for 8 minutes. How do we know it wasn't 8 minutes and 4 seconds? You know what I mean? Because they said that the time was 6:03 to 6:11, and 6:11 is when he got the head shot. So you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I did see this bizarre article headline by BBC, and it was something like breaking down the 11 minutes and 9 seconds, or no, it was 10 minutes and 19 seconds of Trump on the stage. I'll see if I can pull that up, but I saw the number 11:09 put up here as the timing, but you're probably right about that. If they say 8, it's 8:04. It's likely
Yeah.
if you look into the nuance. Like I see some articles, it was like after 6:10 he was shot. No, it was 6:11. So you kind of have to fact check and see, are they, and they generally do, are they putting out the symbols that you would expect right at the beginning?
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that it was 8 minutes and 4 seconds he was on stage when he got hit, and it was at 6:11. I would not doubt for 1 minute that they did that exactly, perfectly timed, man. Somebody needs to time that thing. You know what I mean? From the moment he started talking to the moment he got struck. And oh man, what was I gonna say? Yeah, and the BP stuff, the Butler, Pennsylvania BP, and Butler equals 78, and backwards is 84. So 78 is how old Trump is, and 84 is when he gets the head wound. 84, get it? The August 4th.
And you said Butler?
That's another connection. And then,
And isn't Butler the
I'm sorry,
name?
what?
Isn't Butler the Elvis actor?
Yeah, Austin Butthead. Yeah, I call him Butthead.
Yeah,
Austin
okay.
Butler
That's the one.
is the Elvis guy, right? Yeah. And Austin Butler, his full name equals 162 forward, 162 backwards. That's June 11th, or you could say 216, which is August 4th. But what I'm saying is that Austin Butler, and he has the Austin connection, of course, which connects to the Dr. Evil character, Space Needle, where his headquarters were. Evil's is Elvis, you know?
Yes, yes. And then a couple of other things that have stood out to me. Alec Baldwin goes free. Trump goes free. Alec Baldwin was always playing Trump, and he shot somebody with Trump's birthday, the one who survived the shooting at the Rust movie set. Not quite sure all the connections here, but all these stories are coming out at once. And there are a few themes here, but I think what else did I have here? I think the main thing I want to bring up was the 6/11 time. I had to verify that. And there's something else. Well, anyway.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything that.
Yeah, he's supposedly speaking today at
what about the
3:30.
word- Who, Trump?
Yeah, Trump's speaking today at 3:30 apparently. So just a heads up. But anyway, go ahead.
Where?
I think he's speaking. I think they
Where?
said
Do you
he's
know
speaking
where?
in. I
Press
think he's.
conference?
Yeah, I believe he's speaking in. Is it Milwaukee? But he just announced that he's not going to stay in.
Oh, wow.
He's not going to be deterred by an assassination attempt, and he's going to be speaking at 3:30.
Wow, there you go. And by the way, the word ass assassination has the ass in nation. So what I'm saying is you have the double ass. So you get it. It's like the double shot, you know, because everything's about the twin, right? You know.
Well, the shooter's name is Thomas, which means twin. And someone had pointed out to me
Right,
the
there
middle.
you go.
So it's like there's the twin theme, reoccurring theme, Top Gun, Tom Cruise. You brought this up, the whole twin thing and the gun from last year on 6/11.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, for people who don't know or are new who haven't checked out your channel, you should tell them where to go. But you've been describing this event
Oh, by the way,
in advance.
go ahead. Yeah. By the way, when you put a link, you put my old channel that was terminated. Make sure you put the right one, please.
Oh,
If you
okay,
put it in the
okay.
chat.
Let me get that now.
Yeah, please.
How many have you been through?
Yeah, so
Wait,
that's
are
why
you
I'm
are you
thinking
actually on your
double
which channel are you on? Someone had said something.
42nd.
You're on your 42nd.
channel.
Okay.
I'm on my 42nd. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Somebody doesn't want this to get out.
Which is super important.
Well, you know something else too.
Yeah.
I've noticed
Yeah.
a lot of these questionable channels on YouTube, like ones that are anonymous, and they start automatically one day they're just suddenly promoting Trump's going to get on 8/4, and they never mention you. I happen to think that these are agents meant to drown you out by taking certain keywords and directing it into some QAnon sense or something similar. But I tend not to trust anyone who doesn't cite you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. People use my name even, you know, just to get people not to come to my channel. But yeah, we'll see, man. Like I said, it'll all come to fruition because right now we just gotta. Anyway, if it doesn't happen this year on August 4th, then for sure it's next year August 4th. He has to get his head wound on August 4th, the real one. Okay, not what you saw yesterday. That was just child's play. You know.
Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to post a link to your latest video. I see the thumbnail. It has the Illuminati playing card, and it has your real channel. So there you go. Anybody who's in the chat, click the link
All right, brother.
Thank you for calling. Thank you for
Any
the
last
update.
questions or anything you have for me?
Actually, someone was
All right,
asking.
bro.
Yeah, if we have any
All
other
right.
questions, I'll have people post it here and call back.
All right, brother.
All
No
right.
problem.
Take it easy. We'll continue to evaluate
All
everything
right.
here. Thanks again.
Take care.
All right, that's Jurassic Liars 26, who is suggesting, as he explained, and I was hoping to hear his take on this because what we saw is 100% what we were expecting. We're not surprised, but in his analysis, there's a deeper level of the story here that involves the seeming death and miraculous resurrection. Also, the 611 thing has been connected quite heavily, of course, on the right. They've been talking about it for a long time, what they call the armor of God. So let me go through my notes here. This is Tucker Carlson. Jay Diggs had found this. He had said, we're speeding toward an attack on Trump's life. Tucker Carlson had recently said this. And behind him it says, Roosevelt's dead. No coincidences. Gunfire broke out, leaving what appears to be a bullet hole in Trump's jacket. And I have more on that. Some have connected it to Doc in Back to the Future. Finally, he puts on a bulletproof vest to survive an attack he knew was coming. Okay, the Supreme Court puts Trump above the law. That's the name of the Atlantic article. The Supreme Court puts Trump above the law and gives him permission for a despotic second term. Now, if you look, you have the justices in silhouette, background, bloody red curtains, curtain call, final curtain call. This is all ominous, and it looks like Trump's head has been blown up, but it has a specifically on his ear, it has specifically this clip here, cut out of his ear, exactly where he got grazed. And we'll talk about that, whether, see, I don't necessarily think he got grazed. I'll explain what I think, but here's a picture of QAnon promoter JFK Jr. in a costume that looks like an aged John Denver or a hobo. Dr. Shiva has chimed in. I see why some may wonder. And you have Trump with the raised fist at the WWE. Trump is part of the WWE universe. He's in their Hall of Fame. So there's that. He might know some things. Tricks of the trade. And for reference, here are some pictures of JFK Jr. juxtaposed with the Vincent Fuchsia. Seed Struggle says, the man with the hat in the background is JFK Jr. dressed up at Trump's rallies, sometimes as his bodyguard. It says here, it's a movie and Biden's not real either. So people thought that this was JFK Jr. behind Trump during the event, which means that he's part of a stunt. Okay, moving on. This is Ephesians 6:11. Put on the full armor of God so you can stand against the devil's schemes. Many people are making this connection now, but yesterday others had pointed out, Steve Bannon says Trump wears the armor of God. So this is a 6:11 reference. Armor of God, 6:11, shot at 6:11. Timothy 6:11, Sound of Freedom. Timothy McVeigh executed 6:11. 6:11 being a code, again, for the far, far right and their counterstrike, or whatever it's going to be. The whole Turner Diaries scenario, the Waco thing. Interestingly, Julius Caesar was reportedly born 713, and Julius Caesar in the Park was performed in 2016, where they simulated a Trump being killed. JC, Julius Caesar, Donald Trump. Here's a reference to Back to the Future. Trump just started wearing a bulletproof vest, and then in Back to the Future, Marty sees Doc on the ground after he gets shot, and Doc opens up his shirt and he has a bulletproof vest, and everyone's happy. Oh, he's not really dead. Here's some jocular, light-hearted, predictive programming. Snoop Dogg's here too. This is from 2016.
Don't you think that's a really cool idea, you guys? You'll keep them honest. You'll keep them honest, Donald. Personally, I hope you win, because I can't wait for the the inauguration.
Then it goes to Snoop Dogg, who has a video where he puts a gun against the side of Trump's head. In fact, I can find that. Snoop shooting Trump in a clown video, or Trump clown, and it says bang. There you go. So there's Snoop, obviously, insider on this whole game, on this whole rigged reality world stage. I mean, even in his case, you know, when you look at these various, like he's probably in on certain death fakers, or they know certain things, but who knows how far up the pyramid they are? Does he know space is fake? I happen to think the people in the pyramid are trapped in their own compartments. Everything's on a need-to-know basis. Okay, FBI confirms it was an AR-15. Here's 50 Cent. 50 Cent is posing in front of it. It's a giant picture of Donald Trump's face on 50 Cent's body. And this was last night. Let me go and play this clip.
Many, 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 many men wish death upon me, Lord. I don't cry no more. Don't look to the sky no more. Have mercy on me.
All right. They've created a martyr. Now, here's I believe this is a second shooter. No, we have someone who does say there was a second shooter, and we'll get to that. Again, I'm just catching up. Here's Trump with the Brick Man. And the Brick Man, I was referencing him a moment ago because the background on the second shooter Illuminati card, or the second bullet, has the conspicuous bricks, which is it's a Masony thing. Cubstar says because 50 Cent was shot so many times and lived. That's right. If that's what happened. Have you read the 50th Law by Robert Greene and 50 Cent? I often cite the 48 Laws of Power and Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals. And Alinsky, Machiavelli, Sun Tzu, Art of War are all analyzed by Robert Greene in his 48 Laws of Power. But the 50th Law was co-written by 50 Cent. And one of the anecdotes here is how one of 50 Cent's albums was leaked on the internet. And he was so mad about it, he destroyed the office where the record execs were having a meeting. And there was like broken glass on the floor, and the place was wrecked. And the story of his rage caused people to chase down those tracks and download them. And it was revealed in this book that there was no such violent outbreak. There was no rage. They leaked the tracks, but made it look like he didn't want them leaked. You can learn a lot about psyops by reading this guy's books, because ultimately it's about the concept of the most powerful being those who don't have to use physical force to restrain their enemies. And when we look at the world stage, the Psy War, the brainwashed, nullified masses, you can see that it's worked. I mean, the human race has been conquered. We are ruled over, but the leashes, the parameters, the boundaries are invisible to us. Sick trolls proclaim that Trump's attempted assassination was staged, and they push a conspiracy theory that the blood was fake. I've seen this talking point that if Alex Jones can get sued for $15 billion for calling Sandy Hook fake, then anybody calling this fake should also be subject to the same penalties. So any Antifas, any lefties calling it fake could presumably be sued under the same grounds. But I've checked. They don't think it's fake. They're mad that he missed. They're saying, make AIM great again. There's a lot of lefties who are just like literally crying that the shooter missed. This is unrelated, but I just want to bring this up. There were two galaxies found by the James Webb Telescope, the same telescope that brought you the space chorizo. The multi-billion-dollar telescope, which is 1,000,000 miles away, so you can't get a refund. But look what they brought us. Two galaxies, the Penguin and the Egg. Two interacting galaxies, dubbed Penguin and the Egg, seen in clarity and detail after NASA releases a new image from the James Webb Space Telescope. And what it looks like to me is a penguin. The male penguins are the ones that watch the eggs. But this was just discovered yesterday. James Webb Telescope. Again, this is the same the same telescope that brought you a space salami. So do I believe this is real? It's as real as the space salami. Believe it if you want to. I'm a non-believer. I like it, but it looks like they did this with some kind of AI generative process. Here's Trump with this. It looks very Elvis-y, like a popped collar, like his collar's flipped up, but no, that's a towel. Here he is on the ground, and you can see the blood from his ear tracing 2 lines, which we'll look at in detail later. At 6:11 p.m. Eastern Time, the ex-host of The Apprentice was speaking when what sounded like gunfire erupted near him. 6:11 Apprentice, again, in the ritualistic death and resurrection ritual of the Masonic cult. You have the entered apprentice who becomes Hiram Abiff when he's fake killed and resurrected. So this is the order of things. So in other words, he was the entered apprentice, but he's about to be Hiram Abiff Tannen, is what I've been calling him. And by the way, just fair warning, Autohoaxology, Simpsons predictive programming. The powers that be, the programmers, are flooding the internet with fake Simpsons predictive programming to discredit Metascript analysis, to discredit what we're doing, to muddy the waters. The Simpsons episode has Trump in a coffin. Some versions of it have Trump in a coffin with the year 2024. All fake. That never was even an episode. Why are truthers promulgating lies? Because they don't fact check their own side's material. Okay, here we have an eyewitness reporting 2 shooters.
As you're starting to process this, I know we'll all be processing this over the coming days and weeks. How are you feeling now in this moment?
Well, what I've heard coming out here is now they feel that there was 2 shooters on both sides. So they got the one on the tower on this side, but the one on the right side they never got. So that's why they wanted us to leave immediately, because they thought there's still a shooter out there somewhere. So there could be in these woods around Butler.
Aaron,
Just like Sandy Hook, the extra shooter in the woods. This is a planted story to start the conspiracy theorists on a trail, because they don't want the conspiracy theorists to find out it was fake. So they're leading you with breadcrumbs. This is an act of misdirection.
Aaron, I've covered many Trump rallies. I don't know how many you've been to.
My 6th. This is your. I was here. I was the 4th car in the parking lot this morning.
You're out of there.
4th car in the parking lot. She attends many of them, likely an operative. Okay, here's Thomas Matthew Crooks, the 20-year-old shooter, featured in a BlackRock ad from 2023. So let's take a look at this. Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20-year-old, BlackRock ad.
Honors economics in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Financial well-being to me is knowing that I can be free to do the things that I love to do. I hope when I retire someday, they say that guy made this place a special place to come to school.
There he is at 19 seconds in. Someone should go check and see if he's in any of these, like maybe Sandy Hook talent shows, or perhaps some kind of a video after that, music videos, because they've done a lot of these videos after these events. And Gabby Petito was in a Sandy Hook video. So this is a gig. This is a crisis actor, in my opinion. It's a good gig. How much did he get paid for it? I don't know. Look behind him. I see a 666 on the guy's shirt. That's interesting. I see a 33. I'll go through this video in detail, but I see a 33 and a 666. That might be a 93. I'll see if I can get the full thing. I believe that was broken by Laura Loomer, who couldn't sleep last night and she was crying all night. I don't feel bad for her. If you're crying for crisis actors, if you take the movie too seriously, that's on you. It's very stressful being a truther. I've been warning people about chemtrail lung. It's not, chemtrails may not exist, but chemtrail lung could exist as a psychosomatic side effect of a paranoid belief system that has you scared of clouds. I found this on Reddit. Speaking of Jonestown and cults. Now, I limit my time on Reddit because I don't want to be radicalized into possibly becoming the next leftist shooter. That's what they say. They used to say if every 17 minutes on TikTok you become 5% more anti-Semitic. Well, every Reddit thread you go through makes you 1% more progressive Antifa. Speaking of Jonestown and cults, Jim Jones literally faked an assassination attempt to solidify his cult, gain publicity. So I have a PDF here called Jim Jones, a case study on the relationship between antisocial and narcissistic personality disorders, and it describes one of his techniques, his staged assassination attempt. Very manipulative. Very. Like people who send cries for help. This is very, very manipulative. And so what are we seeing here? Trump's passing out the Q-Laid, and you can't say he's not connected to it. Think about it. If Q is such a blight, if Q is a blemish, if Q is a smear on the MAGA brand, then why would they allow QAnon promoter Vincent Fuchsia to pose behind Trump at a time like this, or at any time? It'd be like having the QAnon shaman in full buffalo skin regalia hanging out behind Trump. It's incongruent, doesn't make sense. So no, he is passing out the Kool-Aid. And did he just do a Jones? Did he Jim Jones stage an assassination attempt? No, it's not that simple. Something else to emphasize here is that these are bipartisan. Both sides at the very top are part of this. So it's not one side tricking the other side, it's both sides tricking the masses. Now this is very interesting. 4 days ago, 250-year-old musket balls from shot heard around the world have been discovered at a Massachusetts park. Shot heard around the world musket balls from site of famous first day Revolutionary War battle, Lexington Concord. So a couple of things about it. The shot heard around the world was on 4/19. 4/19 is Waco Day. 4/19 is Oklahoma City Day. So we got Dave Koresh, 33, burned to death. Timothy McVeigh, 6'11", electrocuted to death. Both of them at Waco. Alex Jones got his start at Waco, by the way. But 4/19 was the date Maxwell Ezrella was the burning man outside the Trump trial. So the 4/19 shot heard around the world thing is highly significant here. And this was just a few days ago. Here's a video from Finis Temporis, why they keep using Robert De Niro to oppose Trump. And we talked about this before, the Trump derangement syndrome. But I want to show you this again. This character is embodying Trump in 2010.
Thank you all for coming out today. The aliens, the infiltrators, the outsiders, they come...
The aliens, the infiltrators, the outsiders.
Right across by light of day or dark of night. They'll bleed us. They're parasites. They'll bleed us until we as a city, a county, a state, a nation are all bled out.
So he's talking about the destructive result of unmitigated illegal immigration. And when Trump was shot, he was literally talking about, quote, 20 million.
And make no mistake, we are at war. Every time an illegal dances across our border, it is an act of aggression against this sovereign state, an overt act of terrorism.
Now again, this is Robert De Niro playing a Trump-like role, countering Obama's agenda at the time. But here we are 14 years later, and Robert De Niro shows up at the Trump trial. And this caused us to look at all of his previous roles. I had already talked about Taxi Driver, which inspired An Assassin, which was remade as The Joker, where De Niro is both the assassin and the assassinated who gets a headshot on TV. So we've made these connections, and then I look at this one, and last night I realized even the speeches line up.
Tell you what change that'll bring. 68 cents. The jingle jangle of pennies in your pocket because the scavengers, the leeches, the parasites are walking away with your money while you're left with the change.
Okay, now you have the sniper who also is backstabbed. He's apparently set up to do this. Screaming, and then he's rushed off the stage. And again, 20 million is code, more or less, at the shooting rally. He said here, the worst president in history, and this, again, in the movie, Robert De Niro's character is talking about Obama and change. That's what it's a reference to. So, the worst president in history, said Trump, of our country took over, and look what happened. Probably 20 million people. And you know, and he was going to go on to say 20 million was an understatement. But he was going to talk about the damage the 20 million were doing to the different cities they were going to. So how is that for predictive programming? Practically verbatim. Okay, catching up on comments. Tim, did you see what I posted in Gilded? Revelation 13:3 and 3:13. Yeah, I saw that. I'll have to go back and pick it up again. What she's referencing is that, yeah, Revelation 13:3 has the head wound that amazes the world, but 3:13 has an ear reference. Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. Very good find. You know, we're always looking at these codes and ciphers, and Aleister Crowley put in his Magic in Theory and Practice that the aspirant has to learn to read front and back. And this is part of how they code everything. 911, 119, 611 being an inverted 911, ambigrams, anagrams, it's all there. So I find that to be highly relevant here. The ear reference could be foreshadowing. Armin Rees says, I think this is the head wound, and it may well be said that God saved Trump from the attempt. Even Trump will say it. Yep, his proxies, all his people are saying it. This is the armor of God. It could very well be the head wound. But I'm not quite so sure. I do think there's a deeper level here. But again, what I was emphasizing a moment ago, January 6th was a bipartisan operation. Both sides were inside on the Psyop. They have a staged riot. It's simulated, not stimulated. And it's not provoked. Ray Epps didn't make people charge into the Capitol. It was a fake operation. But both sides approve it at the very top. And the same would be true here. Okay, continuing. Mike Kim had said, I get it, but that accuracy can't happen at that distance. And it's implausible to be planned from shrapnel off the teleprompter. The shooter was directly to Trump's right. What if it's sheer randomness, like with Reagan? Don't Freemasons believe in gambling? Well, Reagan's wasn't random. You know, the guy that was shot with him, Brady, was just recently, his autopsy was updated to say he was killed. That was a homicide 33 years later. But that movie, Taxi Driver I referenced, inspired the Reagan shooter. And when you dig into the scripting here, you can only conclude that no, that was also part of the script. Even the shooter's birthday, John Hinckley, born 5/29, JFK, born 5/29. And it goes deeper than that, but the long and short of it is, this is part of a Metascript told over successive generations. These are big stories, worldview shaping stories. So what I pointed out here is this. When it comes to it looks real, does it mean it's real? Well, no. Magic tricks fool anyone in the seats watching the stage. Just because you can't determine how the trick is done from your seat doesn't mean you should default to believing in magic. In this case, movie magic is being used as a tool of propaganda. How was this one accomplished? I don't know yet. But I know I'm at a magic show, so I don't have to default to, I can't figure it out right now, therefore it's real. You don't have to give them the benefit of that doubt. I went to 4chan, and you have someone purported to be in Trump's Secret Service communicating to 4chaners. He said, I didn't follow the orders. As soon as the shooter opened up on Trump, I returned fire despite orders not to engage. Here's the inside job spin. I had eyes on the shooter for 3 minutes, watching him fiddle with his rifle and adjust the scope. It was obvious he was a shooter and I wasn't allowed to engage. And there are many videos of people on the ground screaming about the shooter and nobody's doing anything about it. After I killed the shooter, I was arrested and questioned by the FBI. I was released only an hour ago and I've lost my job for not following orders, but I'm glad I took the shots anyway. Oh, that's plausible. A guy on 4chan saved the world, saved the president, got fired, all anonymous. Sure. What a LARPer. But you know the people here believe it, and this is being promulgated through Telegram. But there's a second shooter theory, there's an inside job theory. Here's the article I referenced. I was trying to bring this up when JL was on the phone. How the attempted assassination of Donald Trump played out over 11 minutes and 9 seconds. Why 11:9? Anyone? Why 119? Here you go, 6:05. After greeting the audiences, Trump takes the stage. His first words are, "This is a big crowd." 6:11. At 25 seconds past 6:11, someone shouts, "He's got a gun." And I think the actual shooting started at 6:11 and 33 seconds. It says, the shots ring out and crowd members hold signs, "You're fired." The catchphrase he used when firing people as the apprentice. And they begin to realize what's happening. Yeah, "You're fired, you're fired, you're fired." And then afterward he shouts into the mic, "Fight, fight, fight." One of the victims was identified as Corey Comparator, who was shot while attempting to shield his family from gunfire. We saw this story. He was a fireman. Christ Consciousness posted this, Jesuit Theater, and has Trump holding a Oscar. Okay, now Dave J had said that some people are finding it to be real, and we're talking about, how do you approach this? And some people say it looks fake. I disagree. I don't think it looks fake. And for me to say it looks fake, I have to be able to describe the qualities that make it fake. This isn't shooting at the hip. This isn't intuition. This is film criticism. We're analyzing special effects. So what we're doing here is not low information disbelief, but rather informed disbelief. And the better the psyop, the harder it is to detect at face value. And that's why you have to look at the narrative threads, the predictive programming, the obvious structure to it all that suggests that it's not a random isolated event. So what I say is we don't have enough information on day one to say it was real. We can withhold judgment. I don't know. It has to be demonstrated by the facts. And the mainstream media is not in the business of promulgating facts first. It's narrative first. And that's what media is. It's a filter, not a window to the world. And people underestimate how badly the collective psyche has been psychologically manipulated. And it's not hard to understand when you compare it to traditional religions. Look at any religious cult, any fundamentalist religious sect, and what it does, the hive mind it creates. These are manipulated minds, conforming to a worldview, sheeple to the priesthood, moldable, puppets. So when we're looking at these big events, I'm just like, well, most people don't have the frame of reference to decode or debunk. They just automatically believe it's real. I don't have enough information. I'm not operating from the same filter. I'm not in their religion. The only logical presumption is that all major events with star characters are PR stunts. Public relations stunts, psyops. 5 months ago, InfoWars guest Ivan Raiklin said, assassinating Trump would be beneficial because then they could retaliate in kind and take out the deep state lists. This is 5 months ago. Let me play this clip. He said, it's going to be the best cleansing and the fastest cleansing.
Directly to every single person on the deep state target list. My assessment, Ivan Raiklin's assessment, that if you assassinate any political presidential candidate, whether it's RFK, whether it's Trump, guess what? America will do the following immediately. They will respond in kind, and they know who you are because we've created the list. So if you go
and that's
to
a
those
major
measures
Rubicon. They should know that.
immediately, you're going to see immediately response, and there are only a few buildings in Washington, D.C. that they will probably do that.
Well, I hope that's not the case, but these people are crazy.
And having said that, if they do that,
Here it is. Here's where he explains how, if they do it, there's going to be retaliation.
option 2 behind Trump is going to be so much better for us and so much worse
Well, I was about
for
to
them.
say, if they kill him, that's best case scenario.
Oh, it'd be great, he's saying, if they kill Trump. It'd be the best case scenario.
From a sick level. From a sick level beating him, oh, please kill him, which but
Oh, please kill him. Who is he praying to?
it's so good after that.
Oh, it's going to be the best cleansing and the fastest cleansing that we've ever seen in my lifetime. I assess with almost certainty, with the highest level of confidence, that if they assassinate Trump, it is so game over for them.
All right. What do you make of that? Now, these are insiders. Alex Jones was at Waco. Alex Jones was at January 6th. Mike Kim had asked, what if they don't give a shit if random people die, except Fuchsia? Because some people think, well, maybe they're actually killing people. After Vegas, we had this big discussion, and people are like, no, they're killing people. I know people who died there. Many people told me this. If I had tallied it up, for all the people who told me that they know somebody who died at 9/11, the death toll would be 5,000. Because you can never find the real names. They're made up. And after Vegas, we had this discussion. And I'm saying, no, they don't kill people. That would violate NDAs. Your non-disclosure agreements are invalid if a crime is committed. You'd have whistleblowers. And moreover, it makes no sense. We're talking about propaganda films. You don't kill people in movies. Now, some people said, well, why would they care? Because they're so bad, they're just going to randomly kill people. And what I want to point out here is that is an appeal to motive fallacy. Well, they're so bad, why wouldn't they just do such and such? Well, there's no limit if you go down that. That's just speculation. But given that these staged events require an entire cruise, media collaboration, politics, politicians involved, law enforcement, fire departments, you have the directors, the crisis actors, you have a whole lot of non-disclosure agreements. It would be necessary that nobody dies, because one death would create a crime scene, a conspiracy, possibly a war crime, but the illegal act of murder would invalidate every single non-disclosure agreement. So it would turn what was a routine PR spectacle into a crime, a prosecutable crime that could bring down the whole system. No, they don't kill people. It's not because they're good, but it's because it would be impractical. Here's Trump on the cover of Time magazine before the blood on his ear has had time to dry. Attack on Trump with his Braveheart pose. This is a PR victory. James O'Keefe, formerly of Project Veritas, now of OMG, O'Keefe Media Group, said, nobody I know would hire these people to be private security. But Secret Service, I have so many questions. And we're looking at this Secret Service agent. She looks kind of like a Kyle Rittenhouse. Kind of pudgy. She's shorter though. But she's handling her gun in a very awkward way. And I'm saying this is staged. This is staged so the right wing can attack DEI. So the right wing can say that this was an inside job. But I suggested to James O'Keefe, maybe you should put on a fake mustache and a funny hat and apply for a job at the Secret Service and see if you can get an undercover interview. Someone had mentioned blading. Here's a definition. Blading in professional wrestling is the practice of intentionally cutting oneself to promote bleeding. It's also called juicing or getting color. So a blade is used generally on the brow, and the blood mixes with the sweat, and it makes it look like the wound is worse and there's more blood flowing than there actually is. So if you're sweating and you juice the hard way, that is, you cut your forehead with a razor blade, you'll have a bloody face during the match. So blading. I bring this up because someone had showed me this, an image of Donald Trump wrestling in the ring with Vince McMahon. And then here's Trump with what looks to be an instance of blading. Did he use a blade and cut his ear? Okay, I'm catching up on your comments. Ryler05 says, everyone is looking behind Trump, including Fuchsia. Well, it's hard to see when you're looking from the front. How far back are they? You know, it kind of flattens everything. I'm waiting for more footage. Mango Penguin says, I'd give you a shout out, Tim, if I was still listening to and calling in on Coast to Coast. Kevin Mooring says, did you see the prophet that predicted this 3 months ago? Are you talking about Leave the World Behind? Are you talking about the movie Civil War? Are you talking about A Man in Full? I mean, this was predicted years ago, and it's been a mainstay of our entertainment universe, the fictional universe, this reoccurring theme of this event that we've been focused on, this event to be. We've been prepared for something. This headshot. Is this the final thing? I'm not sure. I mean, JL has me rethinking, but the fact is, the predictive programming perfectly correlates with what we just saw. Mango says we have, oh no, J Dig says we have a Mandela expert in here. So what makes you a Mandela effect expert? Like if you're personally affected by, what, 200 Mandela effects? Like, oh, you don't remember that Richard Simmons had a headband? Sorry, you're not a Mandela effect expert. You didn't get them all. You didn't get all the downloads. You're not here at the peak. If you only have 1 or 2 Mandela effects, you don't get in. You're not elite. Okay, continuing. A huge PR stunt Trump pulled off. Well, I want to point out here that Trump didn't pull off the PR stunt. The government did. And when I say the government, I don't mean the U.S. government. I mean the world government. There's only one. Okay, moving on. Diana South says, tiny cuts on the head, bleed a lot. Maybe he's on blood thinners. Remember his cardiac calcium score. Violet Penguin says fake blood. I'm thinking more likely fake blood. And the reason why is they wouldn't take any chances. If you're doing a major event like this and you're calculating everything to a nuance, to the minute, you're not going to have a flop. Like what if he at the last minute drops the razor? It wouldn't have worked. So they don't take any chances. I think it was a squib inside of his hat. Again, I mentioned at the beginning, if you have a friend with a MAGA hat, squeeze between the 45 and 47, and I think a few squirts of blood will come out, theatrical blood. Tim, have you heard the theory that Richard Simmons was playing the role of Joe Biden? I heard that. I don't know if I'd call it a theory. I've seen it asserted on X. I need to see some more examples. But I think it's likely. Like, how can you have someone like Biden so precariously balanced, ready to pass at any moment, very shaky, seems to be losing it, and it's just like, it's such a huge risk. This whole weekend at Bernie's thing seems like a massive risk. I don't think they would take that risk. I think it's more likely that they have a 49-year-old Beau Biden wearing a costume pretending to be this older version of his dad, while the real Joe Biden, VP Joe Biden, retired. Do a skull analysis. Compare the skulls of VP Biden, President Biden, and Beau Biden. You're only going to see 2 skulls there. Kevin Mooring says a guy online said he had a vision. Yeah. I would say that person's just trying to grab onto something, coattail, or get some clicks at the last minute. Some people say, oh, I predicted it a few months ago. You didn't predict it. Unless you can tell me how you predicted it. Did an angel visit you? Did you have a vision? A beam of light from a 5G tower hit you in the third eye? The only way you can legitimately say that you had an inkling about this is if you have been looking at predictive programming as a predictive model. I'm saying cite your sources. We have our sources. And it's not a gut feeling. It's not a beam of light. It's not a message from the Lord. It's an impartial evaluation of the mainstream and alternative media universes. Dr. Ruth died as well. I saw that. And even if somebody said, I think this is going to happen, it's like, well, that's the least original prediction. Like, where have you been? Yeah, Trump's a cutter. Who would have thought? Dennis saw self-inflicted wound. I wondered about that. Would he have the nerve to do it? I think he'd be too worried about cutting his hair. Like, I don't want to cut some of my hair, so no, he wouldn't do it. As I've been saying, these things are scripted to the minutest detail. Nothing would be random. They wouldn't let a random element screw up a long-term plan. Violet said maybe they put a squib in his ear canal. I'm saying it's a hat. Messianic Charlatan says, I think I found our culprit. Now, we already have him pictured, although this is pretty close, if you just move the hair over. Although that looks a lot like predictive programming denialist Mike Rothschild. In fact, I'd like to talk to Mike Rothschild. Like, hey, remember when you said predictive programming doesn't exist? And how Leave the World Behind has been consistently yielding results? How Leave the World Behind was released on 11/22? Zip code 1968 119. There's that number. 11 minutes, 9 seconds. Zip code for Leave the World Behind 11963. 1963 11/22. JFK assassination in an Obama-produced movie. So we're already talking about Leave the World Behind is inferring that this Obama-connected attack on Trump is going to happen. That Trump's going to get a head wound. Well, it happened. As I mentioned, A Man in Full also has a Trump character die, and the Obama guy, the Chicago mayor, orchestrates his downfall. Everyone here probably saw Civil War. They kill Trump at the end. This is a reoccurring theme. Predictive programming is not a mystery to us. But if you say it doesn't exist, you're a denialist. You have no credibility as a media analyst. You're just a puppet. You're a true believer in a cult. So this guy is a cult member. That'd be Mike Rothschild. He wrote some pretty decent books, although they contain glaring omissions, and he's wrong about a lot of things. He believes in moon landings. So we'll leave it at that. Okay, now Mike L.A. said, I get it in other cases, but this psyop seems real. Now, just because you think it looks fake doesn't mean that the normies are going to think it looks fake. You've been trained on this. You have been inoculated against the mind war. You're not an auto believer. So the people who automatically believe give the benefit of the doubt and accept the burden of proof for any extraordinary claims. So what I'm pointing out here is that, yeah, it may seem real. It may look real. But even if they pulled it off to the point where it looks so real you couldn't visually debunk it, it's the same production crew, the same propaganda media apparatus, with all the same conditions going back for decades of propaganda psychological ops. They wouldn't change their modus operandi. And all of these events, 9/11, January 6th, Convid, these are all signed off on by both sides. At the top, not the lower levels where they fight. Newly released Captain America has Harrison Ford as a president survive a near assassination attempt. The Boys Season 4, Episode 8, same thing. And this was posted in our Discord server by Frank Murr. This is a collection of movie covers for movies that are out right now. So you go to your Redbox. What can we watch? You got Jean-Claude Van Damme, Darkness of Man, holding a gun. Peter 5'8", holding a gun. John Travolta, Cash Out, holding a gun. Red Right Hand, Outlaw Posse, Love Lies Bleeding, Beverly Cops, Axel F., American Star, Horizon, Boneyard, Air Force One, The Monk, Roleplay, The Abandoned, Cult Killer. Every one of these movies prominently features a gunman. Hitman was actually really good. If you haven't seen Hitman, it's a very funny movie. I can't speak for the rest of these. And the Hitman also makes some statements that I think allude to the fakery of it all. In fact, the movie Hitman, I'll look it up now, is about a police department where they hire a hitman to root out people seeking hitman, but he says at the beginning there are no real assassins. He goes off by saying, oh, there are no real assassinations, there are no real hitmen. This is all just, I think he says, here's what he says something along these lines, where he suggests that what you see in the movies with hitmen do not exist, that the hitman itself is a fiction of the popular imagination promulgated by Hollywood. A professor moonlights as a hitman of sorts for his city police department. So he's basically an undercover cop pretending to be one.
Nothing. It's like you don't even exist.
I guess I'm just your fantasy.
I guess you don't even exist. And that's one of the subtexts of this movie is fakery.
And each arrest was like a standing ovation.
Okay, Daniel Day.
Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with the trailer. I would say watch it. Very interesting concept here. Entrapping people with fake assassinations. Again, here's a close-up of Trump's ear. Now, this isn't from yesterday. This is from the Atlantic magazine several weeks ago. Predictive programming. And truthers believe that predictive programming is the elite foreshadowing what they're going to do for real. And I'm saying, no, they foreshadow what they're going to fake. The memes coming out are pretty good. If you're looking at this from the Normieville lens, Biden versus stairs, Trump versus bullet. What a contrast. Conscious Daughter says, have you looked at Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us official video? There's suggestions to human trafficking with all the white crates and clowns. I'll have to look at it. His work's very prominent in predictive programming. His Heart, Part 5, the live performance, where he's in white with the crown of thorns and the women are dancing covered in blood and they smeared on him. That was an inverse of the Super Bowl with Rihanna in red, surrounded by male dancers in white. Repeated the next year with Usher in white with the Phoenix and Alicia Keys in red. So the red and the white, the god and the goddess, is consistently being used, this Christ Magdalene. And Kendrick Lamar has frequently been used to promulgate this black Christ archetype that has been a reoccurring theme, and it's attached to the BLM martyr cult. And the Heart, Part 5, if you remember, we were discussing the symbolism of the heart. You had the Lamar Hamlin, the whole football player thing where he collapses on the stage and seemingly dies. Damar Hamlin comes back to life. Everybody on the stage, on the football field, is kneeling around him, except for one guy named Neil, or Neely, and I believe he was number 33. But we broke down that Psyop when it happened. Okay, continuing. Immortal AI says by foreshadowing with predictive programming, they can influence the reaction and emotional response. Yes, they condition us to accept it in advance, and they set narrative templates. So, for example, Independence Day, Roland Emmerich has buildings falling because the aliens came in their craft and zapped the buildings. And we're watching helplessly and running from falling buildings. Then 9/11 comes out, and people are like, this was like Independence Day. Well, what was Independence Day about? Alien invaders and everybody gathering in solidarity around the president. So you're like told in advance, you're helpless, look to the leadership for help because the aliens are coming. So they told you in a more fantastical version, a sci-fi version, the story of illegal aliens hijacking planes. And the president has to come out, and suddenly we have to take him seriously because there's a real threat. By the way, Roland Emmerich released Moonfall, which is preparing us for space junk. And we've had space junk as a real thing in the last few months. You can sue NASA for mental anguish if a piece of space junk falls through your roof. New York Post, this is from the Huffington Post. Supreme Court gives Joe Biden the legal okay to assassinate Trump. A lot of these headlines from a couple of weeks ago are not aging well. Here's Trump with the 3 signs. You're fired, you're fired, you're fired. He says fight, fight, fight. Okay, there's someone that asked me yesterday, what's the movie where Trump is in a stadium and he gets shot, and we see it from the bullet's view. It's called Brothers Grimsby. So if you look up Brothers Grimsby, you can find the shot where Trump is getting shot in the face. Predictive programming. Okay, here's something. Maybe this will have to be an axiom. Autohoaxology axiom number 77. Auto-hoax all Simpsons predictive programming. They're feeding us bad information to dilute what we're doing and discredit it. The Simpsons predicted again. Here's Donald Trump, RIP 2024, in a coffin. Like nobody noticed that before. Well, The Simpsons did feature Trump in an episode called The Trumptastic Voyage, but the image of Trump in a coffin is fake. It does not come from The Simpsons. And it's been used for years to back up Simpsons predictive programming. So this, again, is a discrediting meme, and it's viral right now. And everyone's like, oh, The Simpsons predicted it. And then they find out, no, they didn't. So for them, they no longer have to look into it. Just in, Penn State police identify victim shot. Deceased victim was Corey Comparator, 50. The second was 57-year-old David Dutch. Again, we're looking at these names, considering the full meaning of the names. Graham Allen on X. Wow, shots were fired at 611. Check out Ephesians 611. Put on the armor of God so you can stand firm against the tactics of the devil. So other people are noticing this. The 611 has been a code on the right for years. The armor of God has been a staple of right-wing talking points. Alex Jones is always saying, put on the armor of God. Richie from Boston, wear the armor of God. Well, this is it. 611 has been a code for some time we've been talking about, and they shoot at 611, and others are noticing. Someone put this together. The dripped blood on Trump's face forms what looks to be a forked tongue, like that of a snake. Let me go and take this call. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, Tim.
Hi,
Hello.
is this Isabel Ann?
No, it's Echo Charlie.
Oh, Echo Charlie. Okay. We were trying to get a call from this astrologer. She'll probably call later. But what's your take on this thing
good.
so far? What is your take on it?
Well, the Machete movie, I was going to talk about that because it was made like in 2014. So that's way before, Trump was elected and had his immigration. I mean, I don't know how long the immigration thing has been an issue out there. Maybe you would have more insight in New Mexico.
Well, no, actually, it was 20.
But,
it was 2010.
I mean, that's a long time ago.
2010. This was certainly this was
Okay.
way before MAGA era. So how is he foreshadowing Trump's persona right now?
Right, and the immersive, the whole immersiveness of movies and real life. I came across it watching a Jack Nicholson movie, and I thought maybe some of the other callers would like to hear about it. Have you seen Chinatown?
Chinatown. I'm familiar with it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, it's a great, great movie, and it was made like in '74. And the reason you might not know is because Roman Polanski directed it, and he got in that trouble for raping a 13-year-old. So it's like all of his works they're not promoted,
Right.
But it was on Paramount or something this week, and I was watching it, and when I tuned in, it was made like in '74. Jack Nicholson plays a private detective. It's classic film noir. And he is in bed with the woman that hires him to solve his case. And they're sitting there smoking cigarettes, and she's like, "What did you do before being a PI?" And he said, "I worked for the police department or the DA, and I had to get out because a woman I was trying to help I wound up actually making it worse, and she died. Okay, so then that comes up later in the movie where that exact thing happens in the movie to that woman. So I'm looking all this up. It's a really, really good movie. Polanski made Rosemary's Baby in the 60s, and then, like, Sharon Tate gets killed, like, after. So it's like that everything comes true in the movies for Roman Polanski.
Right.
And
That's
then Jack
good.
Nicholson,
That's right.
it was at Jack Nicholson's house that the girl was raped in. Like, they were all, like, together, like, in this whole scene. So that was, I wanted to tell you.
Yeah, see, there's some elements here of this.
Deeply involved.
I've been saying the life imitates, or rather, psyops imitate art. That the psyops they play are definitely referencing the movies. And you mentioned the Roman Polanski thing, and the connection here, it runs pretty deep in a number of ways, but you got the director of Rosemary's Baby's wife has her baby ripped out of the womb by this Satanist, because Rosemary's Baby was about a satanic cult. Well, Susan Atkins was a witch in Anton LaVey's satanic church. So you even have that subtext there as well.
Yes. But, like, with Jack Nicholson's lines as they're in there in the bed, you know, he's like, I actually killed this woman. So to me, it was like Roman, like, maybe revealing there's something going on. This is all Maya, you know, maybe reality follows what I produced. And there was one other point, but I can't remember what it is, in Polanski's life that's also kind of like that, but I've lost it.
We probably... So Polanski did The Ninth Gate with Johnny Depp, where he meets the devil. And so there's been a lot of interesting connections with Polanski, and I think that, yeah, if it weren't for his disgusting behaviors in his normal life, his movies would be, I think, bigger and more interesting, but he's kind of a disgusting character. But definitely worth considering these parallels. The Rosemary's Baby, Charles Manson.
Oh, I know what it was.
Yep.
I know what it was. The Faye Dunaway in the movie was a victim of incest. Like, so he had that kind of theme in there too, and yet then in his own life that comes out. That's what it was. So it's, yeah, I'll get off.
No, this is good. It's like they're telling on themselves, and it's in plain sight. And the other part of it too, I didn't know this Jack Nicholson connection to the Polanski thing. And one of the other things too, in Rosemary's Baby, she's drugged on a boat when she's impregnated by the devil. Well, the Polanski case involved Quaaludes, drugging the victim.
Yes, that's right. And Angelica Houston was dating Jack Nicholson at the time, saw Roman Polanski in Jack Nicholson's house. And then John Huston has a little cameo in the Chinatown movie. So it's all like incestuous in and of itself, like the whole world out over there.
Oh yeah, it's a small circle. I used to say that, it's a kind of a small group. It's like a small minority of people that are at the top of this thing, and it does become very much a closed system. And like you find these threads, like you can't separate these Hollywood psyops from, weirdly enough, Satanism, the sexual revolution, and even the space program. Like these things are all interconnected in a very not even a meandering way, in a very direct way.
Yes, and on the line of Satan, like as far as Christian Satan, he's not going to be like a obvious demon. He's probably going to be a very beautiful,
90 seconds.
Charming person. So that's, just a little...
Yeah, no kidding.
A warning there that Polanski may have been a tool, like, let's put out satanic horror movies and fool everybody.
Misdirection, absolutely.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Yes, and Eyes Wide Shut is another one.
You.
Well, yeah. Hey, thank you, Echo Charlie, for the call. Appreciate the information
I sent you a tip.
Oh,
I sent you a tip on Kofi.
Oh, awesome! Thank you.
60 seconds.
Appreciate it very much, and always appreciate your calls. Everyone looks forward to your calls, so do call back. Have a great Sunday.
Okay, bye.
Okay, our phone time. I just ran out of quarters. Phones are off, but we managed to get some calls in. I want to thank Echo Charlie and everyone else here, all the support, all the comments, all the participation, which makes this what it is. This is a massive puzzle. And the fact that we're looking at movies from 14 years ago that precede the existence of Trump in his current form, foreshadowing Trump and the very speech he would be giving at the time of his attempted assassination. I mean, this is like nuance in the weeds predictive programming that we wouldn't have access to if we didn't have several hundred people 24/7 committed to unraveling all of this. JL26 called and let us know about the second bullet card, which suggests that the first one was failed, so that Patsy had to be killed. But there's another one on the way. I've been talking about the Atlantic and the clipped ear on Trump, the bloody head wound foreshadowing. Not the first example of the Atlantic foreshadowing the Trump head wound. We talk about the Trump Braveheart connection between his avatar, the covert 9/11 in there, and the Braveheart-like scene where he's raising his fist and the flag is positioned just like it is in his avatar. We mentioned that this was the shot heard around the world, being referenced by a lot. That happened on 4/19, Waco Day, and Trump kicks off his campaign in Waco. Some notable celebrity deaths: Shannon Doherty, SD, Shelley Duvall, SD, Dr. Ruth, I don't know, Richard Simmons, 76, I don't know. Some of these characters, I don't know. I mean, this is the thing. The media doesn't lie with every breath. It's a good liar. It lies strategically, and it tells enough truth to maintain trust. Kevin Mooring says, check Gilded for Batman earshot. I will do. I quoted Vladimir Lenin earlier. There are decades where nothing happens and weeks where decades happen. And I think we may be at the start of such a period. Like there has been, I think, a domino pushed. Okay, what are we looking at here? So this is Vincent Fuchsia wearing a George Magazine shirt. This is the guy standing behind Trump. And the cover that is being referenced here says Dodging Bullets. Very good find. Very good find. Thank you for posting. We talked about the shooter being in a Black Rock commercial already. Continuing, there's oh, that's right. Yeah, there was a flag that was unfurled today that looks like a phoenix or a crane or a bird. So Trump's speaking at 3:30 today, and there's this meme going around where this flag, the USA flag, looks like a phoenix or a bird. I'll see if I can find an image of it. But anyway, the crane symbol has been consistently associated with nukes. So just a heads up. I'll see if I can find that picture here momentarily. And here's the thing from Batman. And again, the Batman connection here is that Trump has frequently been referenced as Batman. And De Niro calling out Trump was Joker, or Travis Bickle, who shoots Trump, if you look at the subtext. So here's a shot of Batman with the bang. Now, was this issue written by the Azarello character? I'd like to know who wrote this one. If you join our Gilded, you'll get access to all of this real-time breakdown from a Metascript decode perspective. Just go to ips.monster, join the newsletter. You will get live stream updates, and you will also be receiving archives in your inbox. Okay, I'm continuing here. We were talking about the Trump assassination, WWE PR stunt, Psyop, Autohoaxology breakdown, and Metascript clues. We used up our phone time for the day, so I'm going to go through my bookmarks, make sure I haven't missed anything. Again, here's Trump as Braveheart, perfectly aligned. Like, there are so many coincidences here. I think it was the author of James Bond 007, Ian Fleming, who said, once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, 3 times is enemy action. Yeah, Cope says there's a crane behind Trump with the upside down flag. We think it's more nuke symbolism. Yeah, in all likelihood. And 611 nuke symbolism. 611, 11-6. Or the 119. Like the 11 minutes, or no, 9 seconds. This whole 119 thing, 116, ties to the nuke theme. Oppenheimer, he's wearing the K6. The film was 11 miles long, weighed 600 pounds. Batman, Gotham goes underwater, 11-6. Yeah, this is a reoccurring theme, and it's definitively connected to the nuke. And we were right about this. Our predictive programming had us expecting exactly what happened, so there's no reason to doubt that we're on target here, and that the nuke is going to be deployed, that there will be the Oppenheimering, likely of Seattle. I'm trying to find the Phoenix flag. I'm sure it'll turn up here in a minute on my Twitter feed. Someone had said, I find it strange. To me, I can't see the people being shot in the video. That's suspicious. It's only suspicious if they never show up. But we have to hold out for a couple of days to get all the footage. Absence of evidence is not necessarily evidence of absence. Doesn't mean they're hiding something or it's not there. It means that we have to wait, at times. Okay, someone had said to me, Tim, people know they've seen a light fly across the sky, and they're not lying. The only person lying and coping is you. You're telling them they didn't see the light or whatever it is, when they know it's true, and they hear you call it a lie. It calls into question everything you say. I don't believe in the space station, so it calls into question everything I say. Well, people also believe in moon landings and chupacabras. You can't call it a chupacabra till you've ruled out stray dog or goat. The ISS is a movie, but I wanted to point out here to the commenter that I noticed that you didn't mention your own sightings. You mentioned other people. So how do you live if your perceptions come through hearsay and other people? This is not evidence. So to X, Sabrix, Cope, and Seethe, there is no space station, and there's no Santa. I mean, that's going to get them. There's no Santa either. Okay, we've covered quite a lot. There's likely going to be a lot more to come. I don't want to spend too much more time on this until more information has come out, but I'm going to watch Trump's speech, and then Biden is speaking tonight at 8 o'clock. I think we've covered pretty much most of the new developments, and I think we've reiterated here that what we have been looking at for some time, this incoming Psyop, is happening. This is the first domino for whatever happens next. So we can now, I think, continue to do what we're doing and pay attention to other threads, other things that we are readily expecting. And I happen to think that we're dealing with the potential internet lockdown. They're going to do a pandemic-style lockdown for the internet to cease the spread of mind junk from their perspective. And I do expect there to be some kind of a mushroom cloud phenomenon. The God construct, known as the atomic bomb, is worshipped by most people in the world. And you may not know that you're worshiping a God construct. If you're so scared of that mushroom cloud on the screen that you're going to get beneath the desk, if you're going to duck and cover, you're genuflecting. It's a form of prayer. You're praying to a God construct created by the state to keep you under control and to hold everyone hostage to these threats. All right, this is Autohoaxer GTFO. We will catch you all later.